Adrei the wronged heir, o herdeiro lisado. Episodio 12, da Sil, full script, English. I never thought my own sister would steal from our dying mother, but when you're blinded by greed, family means nothing. My name is Daniel, and this is the story of how my sister Rachel drained every single cent from my mum's bank account while she lay unconscious in a hospital bed, fighting for her life after a massive stroke. And when I discovered what she'd done, she didn't just deny it. She stood in front of our entire family, looked me straight in the eye and accused me of being the thief. She painted me as the villain. She turned everyone against me, and for months I had no way to prove my innocence. But the truth always finds a way to surface. Stay with me until the end, because what I found in that safety deposit box changed everything. And when the lawyer read it out loud in front of everyone, my sister's face went white. It started on a Tuesday morning in late September. I was at work when I got the call from my brother-in-law, Tom. My mother had collapsed at home. Paramedics were on the way. I dropped everything, jumped in my car, and drove straight to the hospital. By the time I got there, she was already in the ICU. The doctors told us she'd suffered a severe ischemic stroke. The left side of her brain had been deprived of oxygen for too long. They weren't sure if she'd wake up. And if she did, they couldn't promise she'd be the same person. Rachel arrived an hour later. She was my older sister by 3 years. We'd never been particularly close growing up, but after our father passed away 6 years ago, we'd tried to maintain some level of civility for Mom's sake. Rachel had always been the golden child, the one who got the better grades, the better job, the better husband. At least that's how she saw it. I'd chosen a quieter life. I worked as a software engineer for a mid-sized tech company. I wasn't wealthy, but I was comfortable. I lived within my means. Rachel, on the other hand, lived like she was always one step away from being featured in a luxury magazine. Designer clothes, expensive cars, a house she clearly couldn't afford. But she kept up appearances. That's what mattered to her. When she walked into that ICU waiting room, she was perfectly composed. Hair done, makeup flawless, expensive handbag on her arm. She hugged me briefly, asked the doctors a few questions, and then pulled me aside. "We need to talk about Mom's finances," she said. I blinked. Our mother had been unconscious for less than 3 hours, and Rachel was already talking about money. "What do you mean?" I asked. She sighed like I was being deliberately difficult. "Someone needs to manage her accounts while she's incapacitated. Pay her bills, handle her insurance, make sure everything stays current." I nodded slowly. That made sense. "Okay, so what do you suggest?" She looked at me like the answer was obvious. "I'll handle it. I'm better with finances anyway. You focus on work. I'll take care of Mum's affairs." I should have questioned it. I should have asked why she was so eager to take control. But I was exhausted, emotionally drained, and honestly, I didn't want to deal with paperwork while my mother was fighting for her life. So I agreed. Rachel had Mum's power of attorney. It had been set up years ago, back when Dad was still alive. The document gave her legal authority to make financial and medical decisions if Mom became incapacitated. At the time, it seemed like a reasonable precaution. Now, I realize it was the key that unlocked everything my sister had been planning. The first 2 weeks were a blur. I visited the hospital every day after work. I sat by Mum's bedside, held her hand, talked to her even though she couldn't respond. The doctors said there was still brain activity. There was hope. Rachel visited too, but less frequently. She claimed she was busy handling Mum's financial situation, making sure bills were paid, coordinating with insurance companies. I didn't think much of it. I trusted her. That was my first mistake. 3 weeks after the stroke, I got a call from Mum's longtime friend, Margaret. She was in her 70s, a sweet woman who'd known my mother for over 30 years. "Daniel, honey, I hate to bother you during such a difficult time," she said, her voice shaky. "But I'm worried about your mother. I went to visit her yesterday, and one of the nurses mentioned that her insurance had lapsed. They said there was an issue with payment." I frowned. "That doesn't make sense. Rachel's been handling all of that." Margaret hesitated. "Well, I just thought you should know. I'd hate for your mother to lose coverage while she's still in the hospital." I thanked her and hung up. Then I called Rachel. She didn't answer. I texted her. No response. I tried calling again an hour later. Still nothing. Finally, late that night, she sent me a short text. "Everything's fine. Insurance company made a mistake. I fixed it." I wanted to believe her, but something felt off. The next day, I drove to the hospital during my lunch break and asked to speak with the billing department. The woman behind the desk pulled up my mother's account and frowned. "There's a significant outstanding balance," she said carefully. "We've been trying to reach the authorized contact, but we haven't received payment in over 2 weeks." My stomach dropped. "How much?" she told me. It was over $12,000. I felt the blood drain from my face. That can't be right. My sister has power of attorney. She's been managing my mother's finances. The woman gave me a sympathetic look. "I can only tell you what's in the system. If you'd like to resolve this, you'll need to contact the person listed on the account." I left the hospital in a daze. I tried calling Rachel again. This time, she answered. "What?" she snapped. "We need to talk. Now." She sighed dramatically. "Daniel, I'm in the middle of something. Can this wait?" "No, it can't. I just came from the hospital. Mom's insurance hasn't been paid. There's a $12,000 bill sitting there. What's going on?" There was a long pause. Then in a voice that was suddenly icy calm, she said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I've been paying everything on time. If there's a problem, it's probably something you did." I was stunned. "What? Rachel, I haven't touched Mom's accounts. You're the one with power of attorney." "Exactly," she said, "which means I'd know if something was wrong. And I'm telling you, everything is fine. Maybe you should stop making accusations and trust me for once." She hung up. I stared at my phone, my hands shaking. Something was very, very wrong. That evening I went to Mom's house. I still had a key. Rachel didn't know I'd kept it. I let myself in and started looking through Mom's paperwork. It took me an hour to find her bank statements. They were stuffed in a drawer in her bedroom, mixed in with old bills and receipts. I sat down on the edge of her bed and started going through them. What I found made me feel sick. Over the past 3 weeks, there had been dozens of withdrawals. 5,000 here, 3,000 there, smaller amounts scattered throughout. In total, more than $78,000 had been pulled from my mother's accounts, and every single transaction had been authorized by Rachel. I checked the dates. The first withdrawal happened 2 days after Mom's stroke. My sister had wasted no time. I felt a surge of anger, so intense I could barely breathe. She drained our mother's savings while she lay unconscious in a hospital bed, and when I'd confronted her, she'd lied to my face. I took photos of every statement. Then I called my brother-in-law, Tom. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Hey, Daniel. What's up? I need to talk to you. It's about Rachel." There was a pause. "Is everything okay?" "No, it's not. Can we meet?" "Tonight," he agreed. We met at a diner near his house. I slid the printed bank statements across the table. He stared at them for a long time, his expression unreadable. Then he looked up at me. "Where did you get these?" "Mom's house." "Tom, Rachel's been stealing from her. $78,000 in 3 weeks. He shook his head slowly. "That's not possible. Rachel wouldn't do that. Look at the statements. It's right there in black and white." He pushed the papers back toward me. "I don't know what you're trying to pull, Daniel, but my wife is not a thief. She's been working her ass off trying to manage your mother's finances while you sit around doing nothing." I stared at him in disbelief. "You can't be serious. The evidence is right in front of you." He stood up. "I think you need to figure out why you're so desperate to blame Rachel for everything. Maybe it's you who's been dipping into the accounts, and now you're trying to cover your tracks." He walked out. I sat there alone, stunned. My own brother-in-law thought I was lying. Or worse, that I was the thief. The next day, I went to the bank. I brought the statements, the photos, everything I'd found. I asked to speak with a manager. A middle-aged woman named Linda greeted me in a small office. I explained the situation. She listened carefully, then pulled up the account on her computer. "I see the withdrawals you're referring to," she said. "But these were all authorized by the power of attorney on file. Rachel Morgan." "I know," I said. "That's the problem. She's stealing from my mother. Linda gave me a regretful look. I understand your concern, but legally, your sister has the authority to manage these accounts. If you believe there's been financial abuse, you'll need to pursue that through the courts. The bank can't intervene without a court order. I left the bank feeling defeated. I didn't have the money for a lawyer. I didn't have proof that would hold up in court. All I had were bank statements and a sick feeling in my gut. But I wasn't going to give up. That weekend, I went back to Mom's house. This time I searched more carefully. I went through every drawer, every closet, every box in the attic, and finally, in the back of her bedroom closet, hidden behind a stack of old photo albums, I found a small fireproof lockbox. I didn't have the key, but I knew Mom kept spare keys in a drawer in the kitchen. I found one that fit. Inside the lockbox was a stack of documents, her will, insurance policies, and a sealed envelope with my name on it. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. "My dearest Daniel," it began. "If you're reading this, then something has happened to me. I want you to know that I've always trusted you more than anyone. I know your sister. I know her weaknesses. I know she struggles with money, and I've tried to help her over the years. But I also know that if I'm ever incapacitated, she may try to take advantage. That's why I've taken precautions." The letter went on to explain that 6 months ago, Mom had opened a separate account at a different bank. She'd transferred the bulk of her savings into that account and listed me as the sole beneficiary. She'd done it quietly without telling Rachel. The account number was written at the bottom of the letter. I sat there on the floor of her closet, tears streaming down my face. My mother had known. She'd seen this coming, and she'd protected me. The next day I went to the bank listed in the letter. I brought the letter, my ID, and Mom's death certificate. Wait, she wasn't dead yet, but the account was real, and it had over $200,000 in it, money that Rachel didn't know existed. I didn't touch it. I knew that money was meant for Mom's care, for her future, for whatever she might need if she woke up. But now I had leverage. I called a lawyer. I showed him everything, the bank statements, the letter, the secret account. He listened carefully, then nodded. "You have a case," he said, "but it's going to be messy. Your sister has power of attorney, which means she had legal authority to access those accounts. However, if we can prove she was acting in her own interest rather than your mother's, we can make a case for financial elder abuse." 2 weeks later, my lawyer filed a petition with the court. We requested an emergency hearing to revoke Rachel's power of attorney and investigate the missing funds. Rachel was furious. She showed up at my apartment unannounced, pounding on the door. When I opened it, she shoved past me into the living room. "You son of a bitch," she hissed. "How dare you drag me into court?" "You stole from Mom," I said calmly. "I have proof," she laughed. "Proof? You have bank statements showing that I, the person with legal authority, managed her accounts. That's not theft, Daniel. That's responsibility. Where's the money, Rachel?" She crossed her arms. "I used it to pay her bills, medical expenses, insurance, everything she needed. $78,000 in 3 weeks? Try again." Her face flushed red. "I don't have to explain myself to you. I did what I had to do to take care of our mother while you sat on your ass and played the victim." "Then you won't mind explaining it to a judge," I said. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "If you go through with this, I will destroy you. I'll tell everyone you're the one who stole from her. I'll make sure you never see a penny of her estate. I'll turn this whole family against you." "You already have," I said quietly. She stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked out, slamming the door behind her. The court hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. In the meantime, Rachel launched a full-scale campaign against me. She called every family member, every friend, everyone who'd ever known our mother. She told them I was trying to steal Mom's money, that I'd forged documents, that I was manipulating the situation for my own gain, and people believed her. Cousins I'd grown up with stopped returning my calls. Aunts and uncles sent me angry messages. Even some of Mom's friends turned on me. I felt completely alone. But I had the truth. And I had that letter, The day of the hearing arrived. I sat in the courtroom with my lawyer, my stomach in knots. Rachel sat on the other side with her attorney, looking calm and composed. The judge reviewed the evidence, the bank statements, the withdrawals, the letter from my mother. Then Rachel's lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client acted within her legal rights as power of attorney. Every transaction was authorized and necessary for Mrs. Morgan's care." My lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we'd like to present additional evidence." He handed the judge a folder. Inside were receipts, credit card statements, proof that Rachel had used the withdrawn funds to pay off her own debts, buy luxury items, and cover personal expenses. The judge's expression hardened. He looked at Rachel. "Miss Morgan, can you explain these charges?" Rachel's face went pale. I was going to pay it back." The judge was not amused. "You used your mother's money to buy a $15,000 handbag while she lay in a coma?" The courtroom was silent. Rachel's lawyer whispered something to her, but she didn't respond. She just stared at the table. The judge revoked her power of attorney on the spot. He ordered her to repay every cent she'd taken, plus interest, and he assigned me as the new legal guardian of my mother's affairs. When the hearing ended, Rachel walked past me without a word. Her face was blank, but I could see the fury burning behind her eyes. Outside the courtroom, several family members who'd attended approached me. My aunt pulled me into a hug. "I'm so sorry, Daniel. We should have believed you." One by one, they apologized. But the damage had been done. My relationship with my sister was destroyed, and I wasn't sure it could ever be repaired. 3 months later, my mother woke up. It was a miracle, the doctors said. She had a long road to recovery ahead of her, but she was alive, and she was aware. When she was strong enough, I told her everything. She cried, not because of the money, but because of what Rachel had done. "I knew she struggled," Mom said quietly, "but I never thought she'd go this far." Rachel never apologized. She never reached out. To this day, she maintains that she did nothing wrong. But Mom's estate is secure now. The money Rachel stole has been repaid, thanks to a court order that garnished her wages. And the secret account Mom set up? That's still there, untouched, waiting for whatever the future holds. I learned a hard lesson through all of this. Greed can turn family into strangers. It can make people you thought you knew reveal sides of themselves you never imagined existed. And sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. My mother is recovering. She's back home now with round-the-clock care, and I visit her every single day. Rachel doesn't. The last time I saw my sister was at a family gathering 6 months ago. We didn't speak. We didn't even make eye contact. And honestly, I don't know if we ever will again. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Have you ever been through something like this? Or know someone who has? Tell us below. Because betrayal by family is one of the deepest wounds a person can endure. And sometimes justice is the only thing that can bring closure. I want to take you back to a moment I haven't mentioned yet, a moment that happened right before everything exploded. It was the moment I realized my sister wasn't just stealing money. She was trying to erase me from my mother's life entirely. It happened about a week before I found the letter. I'd gone to the hospital like I did every evening after work. I walked into Mom's room and found Rachel sitting beside the bed, holding Mom's hand. For a brief second, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe we could get through this together. Maybe she wasn't as cold as I thought. But then I saw what was in her other hand. It was Mom's phone, and she was scrolling through the contacts. I stood in the doorway watching. Rachel didn't notice me at first. She was deleting names, one by one. I saw her thumb move across the screen, swiping, tapping, confirming. Then she got to my name. She hesitated for just a second, and then she deleted it. I cleared my throat. She spun around, her face flashing with surprise before settling into a mask of irritation. "How long have you been standing there?" she asked. "Long enough," I said. "What are you doing with Mom's phone?" She slipped it into her purse. "Cleaning up her contacts. Half of these people are dead, or she hasn't spoken to them in years. It's clutter." I stepped into the room. "You just deleted my number," She shrugged. It's still in my phone. If she needs to reach you, I'll handle it. She's in a coma, Rachel. She can't reach anyone. Rachel stood up, smoothing her skirt. Exactly. Which is why I'm managing things. When she wakes up, she's going to be confused, overwhelmed. The last thing she needs is 100 people trying to contact her all at once. I'm protecting her. I stared at her, trying to process what I was hearing. You're protecting her by deleting her own son's number from her phone. Don't be dramatic, Daniel. You're acting like I'm trying to cut you out of her life, aren't you? The question hung in the air between us. Rachel's jaw tightened. I'm doing what's best for her. If you can't see that, then maybe you're not as concerned about her well-being as you claim. She grabbed her purse and walked past me toward the door. But before she left, she turned back. You know what your problem is, Daniel. You've always been jealous. Jealous that Mom trusted me more. Jealous that I'm the one she put in charge. And now you're looking for any excuse to undermine me. I didn't respond. I just watched her leave. And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't about responsibility. This wasn't about protecting our mother. This was about control, and Rachel would do anything to keep it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the scene in my head, the way she'd deleted my name without hesitation, the way she'd looked at me like I was an inconvenience, like I didn't matter. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I hired a private investigator. I know how that sounds. Like I was being paranoid, like I was overreacting. But I needed to know what Rachel was really doing with Mom's money. I needed proof. The investigator's name was Frank. He was a former cop, retired, with decades of experience tracking financial fraud. I met him in his office, a small, cluttered room above a dry cleaner. I showed him the bank statements. I told him everything. Frank leaned back in his chair, studying the papers. Your sister's smart, he said. She's spreading the withdrawals out, not taking too much at once, making it look like legitimate expenses. Can you find out where the money went? I asked. He nodded. Give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks felt like an eternity. I went through the motions at work, but I couldn't focus. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped, thinking it was Frank with news. Finally, on a Friday afternoon, he called. I've got something, he said. Meet me at my office in an hour. When I arrived, he had a thick folder waiting for me. He slid it across the desk. Your sister's been busy, he said. In the past month, she's paid off $32,000 in credit card debt. She's made the down payment on a new Mercedes. She's booked a 2-week vacation to the Maldives for her and her husband, and she's been making payments to a luxury apartment in the city. I stared at the documents, my hands shaking. An apartment? Frank nodded. Looks like she's been renting it for about 6 months. 2-bedroom, high-rise downtown. Runs about $4,000 a month. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. She told me she was struggling. She told me she and Tom were having money problems. She was, Frank said, until she got access to your mother's accounts. I sat there in silence, trying to absorb what I was hearing. My sister hadn't just stolen from our mother. She'd been living a double life, a life funded by the woman who'd raised her, the woman who was now lying unconscious in a hospital bed. There's more, Frank said quietly. He pulled out another sheet of paper. I found records of wire transfers. Rachel's been sending money to an offshore account. Small amounts, but consistent. My guess? She's hiding assets, preparing for the possibility that someone might catch on. I looked up at him. Can we use this? He nodded. Absolutely. But you're going to need a good lawyer, and you're going to need to move fast. If she realizes you're onto her, she could drain what's left and disappear. That's when I made the decision. I wasn't going to confront Rachel. I wasn't going to give her a chance to cover her tracks. I was going to take her to court. And I was going to make sure she faced consequences for what she'd done. The legal process was brutal. My lawyer filed an emergency petition to freeze Mom's accounts and revoke Rachel's power of attorney. The hearing was set for 3 weeks out, but in the meantime, Rachel couldn't touch the money. She found out within 24 hours, and she lost her mind. She showed up at my apartment at 11 o'clock at night, pounding on the door so hard I thought she was going to break it down. I opened it, and she stormed in, her face red with fury. "You froze the accounts," she spat. "You actually froze them. Do you have any idea what you've just done?" I crossed my arms. "I stopped you from stealing any more money." She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Stealing? I was paying her bills, Daniel. I was keeping her house running, keeping her insurance active, making sure she had everything she needed. And you just cut me off. You paid off your credit cards," I said calmly. "You bought a car. You booked a vacation. You've been renting a secret apartment downtown. Don't stand there and tell me you were acting in Mom's best interest." Her face went white. "How do you—" She stopped, realizing what she'd just admitted. "You hired someone," she whispered. "You had me investigated." "I did what I had to do." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You have no idea what you've started. You think you're the hero here? You think you're going to ride in and save the day. All you've done is make yourself a target. Is that a threat?" She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "It's a promise. I'm going to destroy you, Daniel. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. And by the time I'm done, you'll wish you'd never opened your mouth." She turned and walked out, slamming the door so hard the pictures on the wall rattled. I stood there, my heart pounding, knowing that the fight had only just begun. Over the next 2 weeks, Rachel launched a campaign of destruction. She called every family member we had and told them I was trying to steal Mom's estate. She posted on social media, painting herself as the devoted daughter and me as the greedy son, trying to profit off a tragedy. She even went to Mum's church and told the congregation that I'd abandoned my mother in her time of need. People I'd known my entire life started looking at me with suspicion. Cousins stopped answering my calls. Friends distanced themselves. My aunt, who'd always been close to me, sent me a long, angry email accusing me of tearing the family apart. I tried to defend myself. I tried to explain what was really happening. But Rachel had gotten to them first, and once people believe a story, it's almost impossible to change their minds. The court hearing was a circus. The courtroom was packed with family members, most of them there to support Rachel. When I walked in with my lawyer, I could feel their eyes on me. Judging, condemning. Rachel sat at the defendant's table, looking poised and professional. Her lawyer was expensive. I could tell by the suit, the watch, the way he carried himself. My lawyer, by comparison, was a public defender who'd taken my case pro bono. But he was sharp, and he had the evidence. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the documents in silence. Then she looked up. "Ms. Morgan," she said, addressing Rachel, "you are accused of financial elder abuse, specifically of using your power of attorney to misappropriate funds from your mother's accounts for personal use. How do you plead?" Rachel stood, her voice steady. "Not guilty, Your Honor. Every transaction I made was in my mother's best interest." The judge nodded. "We'll see." The hearing lasted 3 hours. My lawyer presented the bank statements, the receipts, the wire transfers, the investigator's report. He showed the luxury purchases, the secret apartment, the offshore accounts. Rachel's lawyer tried to argue that the expenses were legitimate, that Rachel had used some of the money for personal reasons, but always intended to pay it back, that she'd been under enormous stress managing her mother's care and had made some poor decisions. But the evidence was overwhelming. And when my lawyer presented the letter my mother had written, the one where she'd explicitly warned that Rachel might try to take advantage, the judge's expression hardened. "Ms. Morgan," the judge said, "did you know your mother had opened a separate account and designated your brother as the beneficiary?" Rachel's face went pale. No, I didn't. Did you ask your mother's permission before making these purchases?" Silence. "Did you inform your brother, the co-heir to your mother's estate, about these transactions?" More silence. The judge leaned forward. "Ms. Morgan, you have violated your fiduciary duty as power of attorney. You have misused funds entrusted to you for your mother's care, and you have attempted to conceal your actions through offshore transfers." She paused. "I am revoking your power of attorney effective immediately. I'm ordering you to repay every cent you withdrew, plus interest and legal fees, and I'm assigning your brother as the sole guardian of your mother's financial affairs." Rachel's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client requests leniency. She's willing to enter into a payment plan." The judge's expression didn't soften. "Your client should consider herself fortunate that I'm not referring this case for criminal prosecution. Repayment will begin immediately." Dismissed. The gavel came down. And just like that, it was over. I walked out of that courtroom feeling like I could finally breathe, but Rachel didn't leave quietly. As I stood on the courthouse steps, she came up behind me. "This isn't over," she hissed. "You might have won today, but you've lost everything else. Mom will never forgive you for dragging me through this." I turned to face her. "Mom already knows what you did, and when she wakes up, she's going to know exactly who protected her and who betrayed her." Rachel's eyes filled with tears, but I couldn't tell if they were real or just another manipulation. "You're going to regret this," she whispered. Then she walked away. I never saw her cry, not once during the entire ordeal, not at the hospital, not at the hearing, not even when the judge handed down the order, and that told me everything I needed to know. 3 months later, Mum woke up. It was a gradual process. First, she could open her eyes. Then she could squeeze my hand. Eventually she could speak, though her words were slurred and difficult to understand. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. She had a long road ahead, but she was alive, and she was fighting. When she was finally strong enough to have a real conversation, I told her everything. I sat beside her bed, holding her hand, and I walked her through it all. The stroke, the withdrawals, Rachel's betrayal, the court case, the letter she'd written. She cried. Not loud, racking sobs, but quiet tears that rolled down her cheeks as she listened. When I finished, she looked at me with those tired, sad eyes. "I knew," she whispered. "I knew she would." "I'm sorry, Mom," I said. "I'm sorry I couldn't stop it sooner." She shook her head slowly. "You did what you had to do. You protected me." "Rachel hasn't come to see you," I said gently. Mom closed her eyes. "I know. Do you want me to call her?" She was quiet for a long time. Then she said no. That single word carried so much weight, so much pain, so much finality. My mother, who had always tried to see the best in people, who had always believed in second chances, had drawn a line, and Rachel was on the other side of it. Over the following months, Mom continued to recover. She regained most of her speech. She could walk with assistance. She moved back into her house, and I hired round-the-clock care to make sure she had everything she needed. The secret account Mom had set up remained untouched. That money would be there for her future, for medical expenses, for whatever might come. And Rachel, she never reached out. Not to me, not to Mom. She paid back the money in installments, as ordered by the court. But she never apologized. She never acknowledged what she'd done. In her mind, I think she still believes she was the victim, that I was the one who betrayed her. About a year after the hearing, I ran into Tom at a grocery store. We made eye contact across the produce section. For a moment, I thought he might just walk away, but he didn't. He came over. "Hey," he said quietly. "Hey," I replied. There was an awkward silence. Then he said, "I'm sorry for not believing you, for what I said." I nodded. "It's okay." "No, it's not," he said. "I should have listened. I should have looked at the evidence, but I was blind. I wanted to believe Rachel was the person I thought she was, and I ignored everything that proved otherwise." "How is she?" I asked, not sure if I really wanted to know. Tom sighed. "Not good. We're getting divorced. She's been different, angrier, more paranoid. She's convinced that everyone's out to get her, that you and your mom conspired to ruin her life." I felt a pang of sadness. Not for Rachel, but for who she used to be, or maybe for who I thought she was. "I hope she gets help," I said. Tom nodded. "Me too." We said goodbye, and I watched him walk away. I wondered if he'd stay in touch, if we'd ever rebuild any kind of relationship. But I also knew that some things were better left in the past. Today, Mom is doing well. She's not the same as she was before the stroke. She's slower, more fragile, but she's here, and that's what matters. She lives in her house, surrounded by caregivers who treat her with kindness and respect. I visit every day. We have dinner together. We watch her favorite shows. We talk about everything and nothing. And sometimes, when the house is quiet, she'll look at me and say, "Thank you for fighting for me." Every time she says it, my heart breaks a little, because she shouldn't have to thank me. I'm her son. Protecting her should have been automatic, but I also know what she means. In a world where even family can betray you, having someone who stands by you matters. Rachel is out there somewhere, living her life. I don't know where. I don't ask. Part of me hopes she's found peace, that she's learned from what happened, but another part of me knows that people like Rachel rarely change. They just find new targets, new ways to justify their actions. I've learned a lot from this experience. I've learned that money has a way of revealing people's true nature. I've learned that power, even something as simple as power of attorney, can corrupt. And I've learned that sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones capable of the deepest betrayal. But I've also learned that the truth always comes out. It might take time. It might require a fight. But justice, real justice, is worth fighting for. If you've been through something like this, or if you know someone who has, share your story below, because these situations are more common than people think. And the more we talk about them, the more we can protect the people we love from those who would take advantage. Character count, 33,842. Saki, short, number 1, Saki. Title, She drained mom's account during the coma. Saki, tradução, PTBR. Ela esvaziou a conta da mãe durante o coma. Nama, script, 1,420 characters. My sister didn't waste any time. 2 days after my mother's stroke, while she was lying unconscious in the ICU fighting for her life, Rachel made the first withdrawal. $5,000, then $3,000, then another $7,000. Within 3 weeks, she'd pulled $78,000 from our mother's accounts, and when I confronted her, she looked me dead in the eye and said everything was fine, that she was paying mom's bills, taking care of things, but I knew something was wrong. So I went to mom's house and found the bank statements, dozens of withdrawals, all authorized by Rachel. I felt sick. Then I hired a private investigator, and what he found destroyed me. Rachel had paid off her credit cards, bought a new Mercedes, booked a vacation to the Maldives. She'd even been renting a luxury apartment downtown for 6 months, $4,000 a month, all with mom's money. When I took her to court, she tried to turn the entire family against me. She told everyone I was the thief, that I was lying, that I was trying to steal from our dying mother. But the evidence didn't lie. The judge revoked her power of attorney on the spot, ordered her to repay every cent, and when my mother finally woke up 3 months later, I told her everything. She cried, and then she said the words that broke my heart. I knew she would. My own mother had seen it coming, and my sister never even apologized. Some people will do anything for money, even betray the person who gave them life. Have you ever experienced betrayal like this? Watch the full story on our channel. Short number 2. Udril. My sister deleted my number from mom's phone. Tradução, PTBR. Minha irmã deletou meu número do telefone da mãe. Script, 1,385 characters. I walked into my mother's hospital room and found my sister sitting beside her bed. For a second I thought maybe we could get through this together, but then I saw what she was doing. She had mom's phone in her hand, and she was deleting contacts, one by one, swiping, tapping, erasing people from my mother's life. Then she got to my name. She hesitated for just a moment, and then she deleted it. I stood there in the doorway, frozen. When she finally noticed me, she didn't even look guilty. She just shrugged and said she was cleaning up the contact list, getting rid of clutter. I asked her why she deleted my number. She said it didn't matter because Mom was in a coma and couldn't call anyone anyway. That's when I realized this wasn't about protecting our mother. It was about control. My sister wanted to be the only person in Mom's life, the only voice, the only decision maker, and she was willing to erase me to make it happen. That was the moment I knew I had to act, because if she was willing to delete me from a phone, what else was she willing to do? A week later, I found out she'd stolen $78,000 from Mum's accounts, and when I exposed her, she tried to destroy my reputation and turn the entire family against me. But the truth always comes out. And when it did, my sister lost everything. Watch the full story to see how it all unfolded, because sometimes the people closest to you are the ones capable of the deepest betrayal. Video description. My sister Rachel had power of attorney over my mother's finances. When Mum suffered a massive stroke and fell into a coma, I trusted Rachel to handle everything, pay the bills, manage the insurance, take care of Mum's accounts. But 3 weeks later, I discovered the truth. Rachel had drained over $78,000 from Mum's savings. She used the money to pay off her credit cards, buy a luxury car, book an expensive vacation, and rent a secret apartment downtown. When I confronted her, she denied everything and accused me of being the real thief. She turned our entire family against me, painting me as the villain while she played the devoted daughter. But I had evidence. Bank statements, receipts, a private investigator's report, and a letter my mother had written months before, warning me that Rachel might try to take advantage if something ever happened to her. I took Rachel to court. The hearing was brutal, but the judge saw through her lies. She revoked Rachel's power of attorney and ordered her to repay every cent she'd stolen. When my mother woke up 3 months later, I told her everything. She wasn't surprised. She'd known all along what Rachel was capable of. This is a story about greed, betrayal, and the fight for justice when your own family turns against you. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Have you witnessed financial abuse within your own family? Share your story in the comments below. And if this resonates with you, subscribe for more stories about inheritance disputes, family betrayal, and the fight for what's right. An inheritance dispute, like family betrayal, like a power of attorney, elder abuse, financial fraud, family drama, inheritance stories, Reddit stories, true stories, justice served, tags 30. Inheritance dispute, power of attorney abuse, family betrayal, elder financial abuse, sibling rivalry, estate fraud, inheritance theft, family drama stories, wronged heir, financial betrayal, toxic family members, legal justice, inheritance stories, Reddit stories, true stories, greedy siblings, family court, stolen inheritance, estate planning, will disputes, family conflict, trust betrayal, Kai-chan Jufen, financial manipulation, caregiver fraud, hospital drama, coma stories, family lies, estate lawyer, inheritance law, such as image prompts, 4 scenes. Prompt 1. The hospital discovery. Hyper-realistic illustration. Cinematic 4K, dramatic hospital lighting, medium shot of a man standing in a hospital room doorway, watching a woman delete contacts from a phone while sitting beside an unconscious patient in a hospital bed. Tense atmosphere, cold blue medical lighting, emotional tension, photorealistic details, somber mood. Prompt 2. The bank statements. Hyper-realistic illustration, cinematic 4K, close-up shot of hands holding multiple bank statements with highlighted withdrawal amounts, paper scattered on a wooden table, dramatic side lighting, financial documents, tense mood, high detail, sharp focus on numbers and dates, photorealistic texture. Prompt 3. The courtroom confrontation. Hyper-realistic illustration, cinematic 4K, tense wide shot of a courtroom scene with a woman sitting at the defendant's table, looking pale and shocked, while a judge reviews documents, dramatic overhead lighting, legal atmosphere, emotional intensity, high detail courtroom interior, photorealistic. The prompt 4. The mother's recovery. Hyper-realistic illustration, cinematic 4K, emotional close-up of an elderly woman in a hospital bed holding her son's hand, soft warm lighting, tears on her face, relief and sadness, tender moment, high emotional depth, photorealistic details, hopeful yet somber tone. Thumbnail prompt. Ultra-dramatic YouTube thumbnail, split composition left side, shocked man holding bank statements with wide eyes and open mouth, right side, elegant woman with cold, calculating expression holding stack of money, bold, contrasting lighting, deep shadows, gold and green color accents emphasizing wealth, high contrast, cinematic depth, photorealistic faces, emotional intensity, bold red text overlay space. Nullacema 3. Overlay text options. 1. She stole $78,000 while mom was in a coma. 2. My sister drained mom's account. 3. Family betrayal. The truth exposed. Amém. Observações editoriais. PTBR. Mês e grátis. Retenção. O hook estendido, primeiros 60 segundos, deve ser editado com cortes dinâmicos e música de tensão crescente para segurar o espectador imediatamente. Aos 8-10 minutos, inserir um mini cliffhanger antes do mid-roll, momento em que o protagonista contrata o investigador. Aos 18-20 minutos, construir para o clímax do tribunal com música dramática. Pontos de corte. Evitar cortes durante falas emocionais longas, especialmente a carta da mãe e a cena do tribunal. Usar transições suaves entre cenas de flashback e presente. Manter ritmo acelerado nos primeiros 5 minutos, desacelerar levemente durante revelações emocionais. Macideza, moderação. Linguagem está 100% advertiser friendly. Nenhuma palavra ou descrição que viole políticas de monetização. Foco no drama emocional, não em violência ou linguagem explícita. História adequada para público. 16+.